Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the MC Events podcast. As always, I am your host, Joey, joined by my co-host, Gilan.
Hello.
And we are joined by Justin, who some of you may know as the owner of MC Mania. So, Justin, welcome to the podcast, and go ahead and tell us a little about yourself.
Hello. My name is Justin. I've been playing Minecraft for about 5 years. Took interest in event making in about like last year-ish. That's when I really got into event making. Let's see. Fun fact about me: I'm very short. I get made fun of a lot. Yeah, and I am the owner of Minecraft Mania, as Joey said. Yeah, and I stream sometimes on Twitch. Sometimes I play in events, and yeah, I'm a simmer. That's another fact.
Nice. Well, we're glad to have you today. Glad you wanted to join to talk about making Minecraft Mania, because we've now, Gil and I have watched every event, it feels like, under the sun.
Every single one.
And I apologize if any way we forget what was in Mania versus in the other events, because they all do start to blend together at some point.
Yeah.
But obviously that's the first thing we want to talk about then, is why did you create Minecraft Mania and where did that process kind of start?
So I was really into like MCC. I've been watching MCC since basically the beginning. Since I was a huge fan of Tiff, like Ice Cupquake, and Scott, who created it in the first place. And then like as time went past, like I really wanted to make something maybe small, nothing that big. And then fast forward to last year, I think it was like around December, November. It was me and three other friends, mainly one of them. His name is Mickey. He's the co-owner. And we sat down and we were like, you know what? Let's make an event, fully custom, fully six games, kind of following the same format. So it's not like really a huge experiment to do, since, when you go in there and you do like something completely new, it could, you don't know if it's going to fail or succeed.
For sure.
And it was originally supposed to release in December as like the first like Christmas event. And we kind of got ahead of ourselves. Like we made big projects, and none of them came out, and they were not ready by that time. So we fast forwarded it, and the first event came out on February 25th, I think. I'm not 100% sure on the date, but
somewhere around there,
somewhere along those lines. Yeah. So it's just basically like a bunch of friends mixing together whatever knowledge we had about map building and coding, and then I started getting help there and there, and here we are.
Yeah. And it's obviously that's a quick turnaround to go from the idea in November-ish to then having it up and ready by even February is very quick.
Yeah, we barely we had one game get done the week of the event, so it was very but we made it. So
yeah. So how'd you go about through that design process? Like, how did you start with just designing the games and deciding what you wanted the gameplay to feel like for the event?
So I wanted to have a huge balance between PvP type games, movement type games, and just team games. So I tried to not really lean into game ideas that were based off of certain events that, are popular, because some people could see that as like, hey, you're copying the event, So for example, like games such as PvP Rumble is just my idea. It's most of the games were my ideas. Yeah, I think so. I think PvP Rumble was my idea. Some of the newer games are also my idea, but it was a process of, we had a channel called brainstorming, and we would just toss in ideas, use them together, and make the game. Some game ideas were like, they weren't that good enough for that time, or we just didn't do them at all. So
yeah. And so how much of the game's changed since that first event to, what number is it on now?
It is now, we have, I think, around 8 games. There might be some coming soon, which maybe I can't really talk about, but, depends on, but we originally had 6 games. So I'm going to compare that to when we really first started, because I think that's where we have the most difference. Like games such as, I don't know, we're meant to be released on the first event are not going to be released at all, or we're never releasing them, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, that's the same thing. We're releasing them in the future.
Yeah, just delaying them till later.
Yeah. It was like bigger projects, you know, the bigger games.
Mm-hmm. And when you were, making these games, were there any like standout development challenges you had on a specific game or a specific part of the event that like really, as you said, you were working on a game the last week, but were there any big challenges you ran into?
Well, I was abroad for the start of January, end of December. So that was one admin out of the team. Also, when we started, we had little to no knowledge of coding games. So it was just like everyone putting in what we knew. Somehow we ended up doing, kind of, solid coding for the first event. Obviously, as time moved on, we kept on improving from what we had, which was really impressive. Everything is mostly self-taught, especially the things I make. They're all like things I taught myself to make, rather than like watch a tutorial or look at someone else's or have someone help me. It was just completely me, which I'm really proud of because I never took any computer science or any sort of coding anything in school. So it was just me playing around with commands. So I would say, yeah, coding was one of the issues, as well as maybe the time. We were kind of on a time crunch, as I said, like one of the games was finished the week of the event.
Yeah, so just keeping it all organized, getting it all done. It's a lot to do.
It is.
What that entire team look like from where you started with? How many people was it to like what does the staff team look like now?
We started off at 4 people, and we are at, I'll get you the exact number, around 13, 12, like 12 admins. And then we have help from like, a video editor and like music makers and stuff like that. So all in all, maybe around 15 to be exact, who help make the event be what it is.
And so what are their different roles? Like how do you differentiate who's working on what and who's doing, in charge of what things?
When it comes to, for example, building, we usually tackle big projects all together. So we have, for example, a solid 8 builders working on a specific map, a solid 5 builders. Like we're split evenly on like builders and coders. And then when it comes to coding, you obviously sometimes want to do that all yourself rather than have multiple people work on one piece, as it could get a bit messy. So we have people who code like the games itself, and we have people who code like what I like to call the quality of life stuff, like, maybe like a top 5 player board or the decision dial or something like that. And then we have one person in particular who manages more like the server side, and plugins and stuff like that, which they're a fairly new addition to the team. And the additions they made will have not been seen yet, but will be seen in the very near future. And from what I've seen so far, they look amazing. And then there's also like artists, as I said, like video editor, music makers, model makers, the team emoji makers, or the game icons, all that.
Yeah, so it takes a whole village to make an event, as we know.
Yeah. Yeah,
And you mentioned that initially, and I don't know, is it still a command block run event? Is it all command blocks still, or is it plugins or script or something?
No. We used to be command blocks because that's all we knew, and then we started transporting to like data packs, and then now we're in the process of doing plugins and scripts. So it's less messy, more organized. So it's a step-by-step process.
And then what was your initial like goal when creating Mania, and how do you see what you've made so far? Is that like matched what you were going for?
I wanted to make an event where 18, 24, I don't know, player change has been, the player amount has changed. I wanted players to come along, make friends, vibe, and have 3 hours of fun. And I didn't really want competitiveness to really kick in. That's why I didn't want like public stats or like public, individuals, for example, because I felt that that's where the competitive sweaty side. I'm gonna sound a bit rude by saying sweaty, but yeah, I just wanted 40 players, for example, to come on the server and just have fun, and I've definitely reached that goal with new people coming along. I've always wanted to make new friends, that's have been like one of my goals. I've made some amazing friends through Minecraft Mania, and have gotten so many opportunities, which I am very, very grateful of. Yeah, all in all, just a friendly, vibey event where everyone's having fun, no complaints. Yeah, that was all. That's basically my goal.
It makes sense, and it sounds like that's what's happened with the event.
So that's
cool to see it go that way. On the slightly less positive side, what are some issues that you've run into while running the event, whether with players or the server or other things, and then how have you had to resolve them as one of the people in charge?
I would say maybe I'm a very organized person. I'm I need to have that done by that time, otherwise I'll freak out. And some admins on my team, no hate to them, I don't want to, but they don't do that. So when I'm a really control freak, that's what they call people like me, who really wants stuff done by that time. Maybe that as an owner could also have some conflicts within the team, but we've always worked through it, and I've never really complained about it because they've always gotten their stuff done. And I'm just grateful for them. Another thing is I would say balancing teams is harder than what it feels like, because you want to make a team which is balanced, which vibes all together. And you don't want to upset people, and you have to make sure that person hasn't played a lot and that person has played, and it is a really a big challenge. I'm mostly in charge of that. So for the last event, the Pride event, I had to make some basically all myself. But I did a good job, I'm gonna give myself a round of applause. It was a work of art. Yeah, I think those are the two biggest issues that I've seen so far.
It makes sense, because balancing teams is especially difficult when you don't necessarily have a lot of data for how good players are, or if people haven't interacted a whole lot, you don't know who works well with who, and so you're kind of just having to make some very educated guesses, but they're still guesses.
Yeah, and the working with each other part isn't really that much big of a deal, because I'm really proud of myself for building a community where everyone's willing to make friends, and they don't mind who their teammate is, or they don't mind who they're playing up against. It's a very friendly bunch of people. So yeah, another, I would say, thing is who you let in the event and who you don't let in the event. I would say many people ask to be in the event, but I'm it's really hard. There's certain things that I see to an event player that makes them a Minecraft Mania event player. I said it. They're not really, playing to win, as in they're not very, very, very competitive. They don't really care about the stats. But that's just the little stuff, honestly. As long as they're just not disrespectful, and they follow basic human right rules. That's what I see.
So are most of the new players then joining up from friends of friends from current players, or is it they're kind of just reaching out in other ways?
We have a mixture, people reach out, people vouch for friends. Sometimes we have to do a little background check, obviously, to just make sure they're not problematic, because we've had that issue in the past before. But yeah, it's just friends of friends. If I have a friend, for example, that I want in the event, I'll just invite them. Same with every other admin. Yeah, that's mostly it. I really don't care about having to stream or not. I just want, for example, most of my friends do not stream. So I will be happy to always have them be in the event. We've had many people reach to us and be like, hey, I'm a content creator. I'm I did discuss it further with them, because some people think that because they're content creators, they really, should fit in the event. When in my eyes, I don't know. I do not see it like that. So when people come up to me like that, it's really hard because obviously I don't want to sound rude and like saying no on the spot. But at the same time, you can't accept everyone, obviously.
Yeah, you very quickly run out of spots available to have everyone play.
And actually on that topic, is it so? Minecraft Mania has 3-player teams, correct? Is it 3-player teams?
Ooh, it has now been upgraded to 5-player teams.
Oh.
Okay.
So that's the upgrade.
Why do you go with 3-player teams initially? Because I think that was one that we watched a lot of events, and there's a lot of 4, 5. I mean, 2 maybe for like Minecraft Monday. Why was it initially 3-player teams?
Because we didn't expect Mania to be such a huge event. You know, like we thought it was just going to be a friend event. You know, like we have friends, they play, they stream if they want to, and they just have fun. That was our main goal. And like after the first event, everything just like blew up. Basically, like we got people wanting to be in, and I'm like, oh, that's great. Let's up the player teams. And then from that, we still got more players, and I was like a bit overwhelmed. And I would say balancing was way much harder initially on 3. I don't even know why we went with 3 in the first place, if I'm being honest. I think it's easier to get 18 players than like 24, for example.
Yeah.
Especially when you're still starting off the event.
Yeah, makes sense. Because as I like to say, there was like a wave of events in like 2020, 2021 that all just launched very poorly. And so it turned people off to when new events were launched until they kind of proven themselves to be stable and functioning. Which is sad that's the case. And I'm glad that we've kind of found this equilibrium of most events now are come out very polished and very impressive, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, you can't rush into making an event. That is something that like, unless you're using the same materials from a past event, like exactly same materials, which sometimes is never even the case. Even if like our shortest gap was like 2 weeks between one event and the other.
Wow.
And we did so much in those 2 weeks. Like we basically did most of like some event mechanics. So, and it's only been like what, a week since our last event, and yet again, so much just stuff has changed already. So
how do you make decisions about what will be changed from one event to the next, and like ensuring that the changes you're suggesting are both feasible and like gonna work?
Well, I mostly love hearing suggestions from the players themselves and from our testers and from basically anyone. We have a specific channel where we sort through these suggestions and like we see, oh, maybe this is like a thing from like a player side, not that from like a personal side, because you also have to be, you know, pay attention when you're looking at a suggestion, because it could be because like they were being a bit baby raging and then they decide that they hate that thing, so you can't obviously just fix it for one person. We had, for example, one thing which I remember you guys talking about, which was the button and precision build, if you remember the building game where you had to press the button. We thought it was like kind of cool as an admins in the first place. Then we saw like testers kind of say against it. We saw some players say against it, and we were like, you know what, let's just remove the button and see how it goes. And we did. So the button has been gone.
Yeah, that's a case of like, at first you're like, I think it's fine, we think it's fine from the staff team, but after testers say it and then players say it, you're like, let's try to remove it and see what happens. And you went, oh yeah, that was good.
And we also make like a lot of changes after tests. For example, like a tester can say, oh hey, like this kit, for example, in this specific game is too overpowered, you should nerf it. And we do. And we don't really know the exact how to nerf it, so we just nerf it a bit, and then we see, oh, you know, maybe this is still OP, or this is really underpowered, so we try to like play around and test rather than in events, which I think that really makes testing such a big part of having a Minecraft event, because you know, you can have a big admin team to test it themselves, but still you need opinions from other people, not the staff team, because the staff team can have really biased opinions at some points.
It's the issue of staff get fairly invested in whichever idea is their idea, and they don't necessarily want to change it, whereas you bring in these testers whose job it is to, you know, critique everything.
Yeah.
How many tests do you typically run between events?
Well, we do mostly like, I don't know the exact number, but if we have a game we need to test, they're like ping that moment, like, hey, can we want to test this? Like, can you join? Sometimes we schedule tests. Like, we usually have one the night before the event, to make sure everything's working, just in case something breaks like the day of. So like that's one guaranteed test. And we just have like if we can test, we do test, because yeah, especially when we make new changes to things, we always like to instantly try to test it out so we don't prolong it, and if everything's wrong, we change.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then on a bit of a lighter note, what is your favorite game currently in Minecraft Mania?
Oh, this is really hard. Okay. Since I've played in both like two events, I can see it from like a player side. I would say potentially hide and go hunt, which is a bit controversial because some people think it's like purely RNG and purely like, they don't like it. But I really love hide and go hunt. It's such a fun game to play, even maybe if I don't particularly do the best. I find that game to be so fun, especially if it's like the last game, because after a 5-game stressful event, you kind of want the last one to be more relaxing. So I'd much rather play that game over than a PvP side, and just creates so many funny moments. The game itself, like when a person hides and like someone just walks past them. Like I have so many video clips and stuff of just people running past like spots, and it's just so hilarious. Even to see from like an admin point of view, the game is just so fun because you can see where everyone's hiding and where the like seekers are going. It's just a fun game in general. Even like the maps that are built for it are stunning. They're amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. It makes sense why it's fun to play. To give you a more of a long-term question about the event, where do you see it going in like the next year or 2 years, or will it still be around? Is the goal to still have it around in 2 years?
I mean, I said this to my like friends and stuff, like I want to keep doing this. It's a hobby of mine, creating like an event. I see it, just keep on building up, keep on getting better, hopefully for the best, improving, like, new people. I would say, it's a really hard question to say, like to answer. It's like, like in a year, anything can basically happen. Yeah, I just hope that it is much improved. And it's just still fun, still fun to play in.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Are there any goals for where the event will be, in for the next one, or, a shorter term goal of like how the event will go and grow, or what it will do or be like?
I mean, we have many things that we want to change for like the next one, which is in July. And that, that goal is to like make the event bigger. That's our goal, like bigger teams, bigger games, just basically much longer event. Because we have seen that like the event takes around an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours, which is a bit short for like a Minecraft event. And I love when I played it. I don't like the long ones though, like really, really long ones. Like I want like a decently long event, which is really fun to play, and I can still remember like the memories I made during that event. So yeah, that's what like my goal is to make the event bigger. In that terms, I want it to be the most like not as smooth as possible. I want it to be not like have choppy things like, oh, there's like a pause in that part, a pause in that part. That's like not just a me goal, it's an everyone goal. And I want to build an amazing supporting community just in general that plays the Minecraft event in general, and is just the Minecraft Mania community in general. That's it.
Yeah, I think those are cool goals to have.
Building off of that, are there other events? I mean, as you mentioned earlier, MCC, but are there other events that you like to watch as well?
I really enjoy watching Block Wars.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's so much fun to watch Block Wars, especially like the Pride event. And like when everyone was given creative mode like at the end, that was just hilarious. It's just seeing everyone doing different stuff. There's people killing the Ender Dragon, people spawning withers. Some people were building a house. Yeah, Block Wars is a really, really cool event, and especially when I'm not really sure how it really started. I heard it from someone. I'm not 100% sure. Was it like a group of MCC testers? Correct me if I'm wrong. But I was told it was like a group of MCC testers who came together to make an event.
Mm-hmm. So at the time, back in late 2020, there was a group of MCC testers that were friends called the Lads, and then there was also the Vibe, which were like 2 friend groups, and they were competitive against each other in tests. So they wanted to like play in an event to like do this, play against each other. So like the first like Block Wars is just Lads versus Vibe. Like the original hub still exists somewhere on the server too. It's very unpolished, but like it has their names up there. And then from that, it just kept snowballing into, you know, getting more people to help with it. So then growing it to have more people play until it's now at the point where it is today, where it's, you know, pretty big deal in some ways.
Yeah, it's really fun. I always look forward to it. It's like how I look forward to like an MCC.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to like a Block Wars, which is like,
nice.
You know, it's very fun. Yeah, I also enjoy watching Pandora's Box. It's another cool event. I think it has been around for a while. I think they just have like many breaks.
Yes.
So they're not that frequent. Like the recent one, the Unleashed. No, not Unleashed. Unsealed.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I was I had a friend in there and I watched him. Yeah, it's just a fun event, you know? Really cool. Even the theme in itself, like Greek mythology, it's perfect. Yeah. I love it. And of course my event.
Of course.
Of course.
If you had any takeaways from like ideas you've had of watching those events of things you want to incorporate into your own event.
Yep, there was a game, Block Wars, which is fairly new, the Order Up game. We had an idea of making like some sort of like our idea's name, so it was like very alpha, like very, you know, beginning, you know, was Cooking Mama. Like it was basically just a cooking game. I always wanted to make the game from that because I was so inspired like how Build Mart is, where you have to like make a build. And maybe some people really aren't like that fond of like the building side, but maybe of the idea of having to go collect like the stuff, like the like farming and killing the animals or just stuff like that. I think it would have been more of a fun take because Build Mart has a lot of haters. You know, I don't know why, because I personally love Build Mart. But yeah, that's what I wanted to make. It's like a spin-off game of Build Mart based, like, you know, but with like cooking, like where you have to make an order and deliver the order, and it's like based on how the orders, like the scoring is like based on like when you finish the order.
Yeah, that I mean, yeah, I can see why. I know when we were starting on Order Up, the idea was thinking about Overcooked, the game, so how to bring something like that into Minecraft. So like you're inspired watching Block Wars make this cooking game, but we were inspired by a different game. That's why we brought it in. So it's funny to see the cycle of inspiration.
Yeah, it was like it was the event before. No, it was 2 weeks before they announced the game. We like yeah, we're making. Oh, sorry, we're making this idea, and you know, gonna work on it. And then 2 weeks later, we see that the Order Up game, and was like, we obviously didn't want to have a game that could be similar to other events. So the project has not been talked about in a while. So yeah,
I get you, because yeah, there's the worry of trying to ensure your event feels unique and each game mode feels unique from other ones, so people don't say it's just a copy.
Yeah,
but we all still have race games in all of our events.
Every event has a race game.
So I'm like,
that's the staple.
The Minecraft movement's so fun.
There's so many other options, but one day we'll see them.
Even like making like the race maps. Like I know my co-owner Mickey, he builds the race maps, and he has the creativity. I don't even like tell him to do it or I don't stop him from doing it. He just does it, and he makes just this beautiful map, and I'm not like arguing against it. I don't care if it's like not our main project at the time. So we just have like these like different race maps built, which are never have been used, so they're just there. but it's just so fun to build and make them, even play them in general. I mean, I'm not particularly good at them. I have had my fair share of failing at a race game, so
Yeah.
but yeah, they're always really fun to play in an event, although it's seen basically everywhere. It is really hard to make it a bit unique.
It definitely is. There have been ideas, but we'll see what people do with it. We have a couple more questions, then we'll give you the opportunity, ask us stuff, or you want to talk about any things about making events, and then we'll start wrapping up after that. But what is your advice for other people that are listening to this and they're working on their own event?
My advice is to really have fun with it. Don't really stress about it. That's what basically how we made it in the first place. Group of friends just came up with 6 games. We really didn't intend for it to go a bit more in the professional path. But we ended up, had a really great first event, which obviously branched out our pathways and then, followed a more professional path. But yeah, I would say definitely get a tester squad or whatever, for sure, as it is really beneficial. Be really open to suggestions from players and just people in general. Have fun with it, as said before, and really try to be unique, because the more unique you are, the more oh yeah, that game has that event has a unique game, so I really want to play that game, and yeah, just in general, vibe, make cool games, make cool teams. I don't know, depends on where you what thing you like to do,
Yeah,
because I enjoy making the teams personally, although it is very stressful. So when it comes to the team making part, I completely just have fun with it. But yeah. And I would say don't compare yourself to other events at all, because it could kind of bring down your morale a bit in a certain way. I say this the same about when people come into my chat and say any advice for streaming. It's just never compare yourself to something that's way bigger, just vibe, just do your own thing with your friends or by yourself if you're very independent. But yeah, just completely stay by yourself.
On the podcast, we talk about how really, if you're working on your own event, even though everyone looks up to MCC and it's great to get inspiration from MCC, comparing yourself to MCC is a very bad idea, because it's not going to feel that good. And you have to remember that, especially MCC as an example, has, paid, people are making money off of it. They're working full time. They have a lot of people who are really good at it. And I think, at this point, if you're going into making Minecraft events, money is not the main driving force for anyone. It's just for doing it for fun, and just making something and being proud of what you've made is definitely more important.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Especially when MCC is made by Nox Crew, who is a really phenomenal crew of people who have made past Minecraft successful maps and games and stuff. So yeah, it's not really that easy to compare yourself to them, because they've obviously had the experience and stuff.
It's not a fair comparison. If you want to a comparison that makes sense, when you compare yourself to MCC, it's I don't know, somebody who's just about to start college or university. You're comparing yourself to somebody who's been doing the same work professionally for 8 or 9 years. You're going to have very different skill sets and abilities. And so you just need to make sure you're aware of that, and doing some comparison of where I could be at, but don't do it too high where you go, that's not feasible.
Yeah. I completely agree with that.
And then, did you watch our video when we watched Minecraft Mania?
I did, but I know what question you're going to ask, but I completely forgot what was really said. Especially when the one you saw, most changes you guys talked about have already been made in the one that came right after. But yeah, I genuinely can't remember off the top what
That's
you.
Okay. We
what
said
you
a
said.
lot of things.
It was the button in general. Like us
It
admins
was all
were
about the
so.
button.
It was all about the button. us admins, like, we really enjoyed the idea of the button because, like, you just when it's just completing the build, it adds like in a way like a less difficulty, if you know what I mean. Like, you don't have to run and press the button. I mean, that's not really a huge add to the difficulty, but it made more. I don't know. It's how we had the original game idea, and then we saw that not everyone enjoyed it, so we completely axed the idea of the button.
Well, I think going back to talk about comparisons for a moment, like there's been other building games and other events for all sorts of things. MCC has Build Mart. Miner has that one building game, or which server has it? I think it's Miner. Has like a construction style building game similar to Block Wars. And then also Hypixel has like a copy the build kind of game.
Yep.
And in all of them there's no button pressing. And so if you've ever played any of those or watched those, you're like used to this already. And so when this new ideas it introduced, be like, I don't like this because it doesn't feel like what I'm used to.
That's why we didn't want to get rid of it in the first place, which is why, because we had testing for, like, when we first played the game, like the testers saying that the build, like the button was just a horrible idea. But from my eyes and from the rest of like the team's eyes, we saw that like the button was just like, you're not used to it. Build Mart doesn't have it, as you said. Like construction from Block Wars doesn't have it. Like Build Battle, Speed Builders, none of them have it. So when you are put in the building game and there is an item you have to press to check to see if the build's correct and if it moves on to the next one, then you're obviously in a new, like, unfamiliar place. You've never played something of the sorts.
Yeah, but
which throws many people off.
And it's finding that balance between, is this a good novel or is this a bad novel thing? And I think the button was a case of like, you thought it'd be a good novel, it'd add a little complexity, add a little difficulty. But then players went, we don't like it.
No one liked it. I don't think there was a single person. Another thing was like the wall in the middle, which threw so many people off apparently.
Yeah, you have to run between the rooms to see it.
But that's the point. It was based off, like, the entire game itself. It was based off that one Grid Runner's room. I can't remember. I can't remember the exact one.
The wool, like there's like the wool, and you have to
you had like the little markers on the floor. Obviously, the room with the build was way harder to see from because it has like the tiny holes. Ours was just like a doorway. That's like a reoccurring like thing we get from people. It's like the things in the middle, which I personally don't see how they interrupt, because I mean it's just walking in and walking out.
Because there'd be the difference that you could stand over the build itself, or stand over you're trying to build and just see the other one, and so you don't have to move at all and don't have to remember anything. But obviously that then changes the game.
We had people say like to remove the entire box in general, but if you do remove the box in general, it's just like construction from Block Wars, but like bigger. You have everyone works on one build.
That makes sense why you keep it that way then. So you don't listen to that feedback, but you listen to remove the button feedback.
We going back to like listening to feedback, we try to listen to feedback and really won't change the game immensely. That could make it look like another game, because people are familiar, as you said, with like games from other things, from other events, as well as just the fact that we choose suggestions and feedback from people who we trust that feedback from. Like Piggles has sent some of the amazing, best feedback that we've worked upon, and other event players. But there's also some players which we kind of like don't listen to their feedback, because we know that they particularly didn't do well in the event. B did not really enjoy like having fun in the event. So if they say like, oh, this kit is completely useless, why is it there? Remove it. Like we're like, oh, well, you did bad in the game, so like we can't really just do that because of you. You sometimes get some people who do that.
Yes, Gil and I have talked about numerous times of like, what is the feedback? How do you decide what is the feedback you listen to, what's the feedback you don't listen to, and trying to separate between it, because it can be very difficult. Now, opportunity for you asking any questions of us, or if you want to discuss anything about making events, if you have any ideas.
Or is that because Minecraft in a way seems to revolve around MCC, a lot of times tester feedback, sometimes if there's a game that might be similar to an MCC game or a Block Wars game, it'll be asking that game to become more like the original. And that's not always the point, right? Sometimes you want to create a different game that's new and unique.
Yeah, and yeah, again, you cannot like take the feedback that's like gonna make everything different, you know, like the entire game, because I'm like
it's kind of stand your ground with what is your vision of
the game. Yeah. Now we've asked you all of our questions. Are there any questions you have for us or topics you want to talk about related to event making?
Oh God, I didn't have anything in preparation for this.
It's okay.
I'd say like, oh my God. Yeah, it's just making an event. You need commitment, like strict commitment. You can't be like, oh, I'm gonna make an event and I'll just work on it sometime. Like, I tend to like split up my time, like having, time with my friends. Obviously there's schoolwork and like study, which will be less of a problem since summer has started. But and then you also have to fit in working on an event, and you have like in real life stuff, which if you have such a tight schedule and you can't find time to work on the event itself, then just don't bother with it. To make sure you have like a really open schedule where you can dedicate most of your time working on it, especially if you haven't, if you're just starting the event. Like I see we're still in like the newborn, the first young part of the stage of making an event. Like we're still new to it. None of us have really that much experience with making an event, and I have seen that like, sometimes if I really want to play a game, but I have like stuff to do, like for like the event, I try to focus my attention towards that rather than just like doing something of my own entertainment, which at the same time you can't really just dedicate all of your time, but you have to dedicate some quality time, especially like if you want to be a bit professional about it.
Yeah, it's a case of when you're working on an event that's going to be run cyclically, like every month or every month and a half, or even slightly longer time windows, that you're gonna have to commit a lot of time to be able to be available and working on it continually, because new problems are always going to arise that you're going to have to solve.
It's just, we've seen something can happen like the night of the event or the day of the event. Like something can break, I don't know, anything can happen. It has happened to us twice before. And maybe instead of like wanting to do something before the event, I usually just dedicate my time trying to fix it. And there are some testers which we tell them like day of event, try to have like your entire morning free if possible, just in case we have to like try out some new things or we have to fix that from like last night's test, whatever. And there are some people who show up and do that. So all in all, if you want to have an event that's sort of professional in its like making, then you need time. You need a lot of time commitment.
For sure you do. But that about wraps it up here. Where can people find you / check out Minecraft Mania?
Well, you can find me on on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Flintic. But there's also, you can find more about Minecraft Mania on our Twitter, which has the handle of @MC_Mania event. We love posting sneak peeks and just tease about stuff with our event, especially now that we have a really big gap between an event and the other. So expect a lot of sneak peeks to go in there. And we also have the public Discord, which sometimes the link in our bio of the Twitter works, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on when it wants to work and stuff. But yeah. And then obviously my other co-owner has their like stuff linked there as well. So yeah.
I'll make sure those are all linked in the pinned comment below.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us. It was
Thank
great
you
talking
so
with
much
you.
for having me. I really enjoyed this.